Hello, this is Jeff Osnes, the Principal Evangelist over here at PhoneBurner. And I want to talk to you about how you can instantly send data from the Clay enrichment tool directly to your PhoneBurner account. Lately, I've been hearing a lot of people taking advantage of the Clay enrichment tool to enhance the data or the information they have on their contacts so that when they're making calls using PhoneBurner and connecting with more people, because frankly, PhoneBurner has the highest live answer rates in the industry. And so when you connect with somebody, you want to make sure that you have all of the most important information in front of you at that moment. And so bear with me as we go through this. I'm going to show you how you can start sending information over to PhoneBurner instantly. So the first thing we need to do is we need to jump over to Clay, and we're going to add a new column. Now, I know I've already created a column for this, but I'm going to walk you through this step by step. So I'm going to click on the plus add column, and I'm going to choose add enrichment. Once that opens, I'm going to type in HTTP, and I'm going to choose HTTP API as the integration option. From here, in the method section, I'm going to choose post, and the endpoint is going to be the PhoneBurner contacts endpoint. And I can get that from the PhoneBurner APIs. So I'm going to jump over to my PhoneBurner account. I'm going to click on my initials in the upper right-hand corner, and I'm going to go down to integrations. From the integration settings, I'm going to click on PhoneBurner API docs. That'll open up the developer documentation where I can click on the API docs tab. From here, I'm going to scroll down to the section where it says creates a new contact. In here, you can see an example payload that would be sent to PhoneBurner. And here we can grab the endpoint URL. I'm going to grab that endpoint URL. I'm going to copy that. And that's what's going to go into the endpoint box. Then we need to start to define the body. What information is going to be sent over to PhoneBurner? And as you can see from the API documentation, there is a lot that you can send to PhoneBurner. But don't worry, I'm going to walk you through how you can create the body in Clay. So we're going to jump over here and we're going to start to build out our body. So I'm going to start by adding just a few elements at a time. So the first elements that we want to add to the body are the first and last names to each of the contacts that we've enriched. So I'm going to bring that over, and I'm going to be pulling this over from a text document that I've already created, and I'll make that text document available to you as well. So the first thing we need to do is enter the first name and last name. So this is the field in PhoneBurner for first name, and this is the field for last name in PhoneBurner. But we need to merge the first name and last name from the Clay column that contains those bits of information. So right here, I'm going to add a / and I'm going to go down here to first name to merge the first name into that spot. Then I'm going to go here to last name, and I'm going to do a / and I'm going to choose last name to merge the last name into the body. So the next thing we want to bring over is the phone number. So I'm going to go ahead and bring that in, phone_work, and then we need to merge the phone number that we have in Clay in there. So I'm going to grab my phone column and I'm going to merge that in. Now the next thing I want to define with you is the folder. So I'm going to jump over to my PhoneBurner account, and we're going to go to the contact settings, and we're going to go to our folders. So you have probably created a bunch of folders on your account, and each one of those folders has an ID. We need to define that folder ID so that we can put the contacts exactly where we want the contacts. So we're going to want that folder ID, but the first thing we need to do is we need to bring over the next line, which is category ID. I know, not folder ID, category ID. And we need to define that folder ID. And I think that is the right folder ID. Yes, it is. Okay. So we've got our folder ID. Now the next thing we might want to consider is sending some notes. So notes, and we're going to include a specific value. You could potentially merge information that you've gathered from another enrichment into the notes field in PhoneBurner. However, most of the fields that we enrich, we're going to want to load that information into specific custom fields, and I'll be showing you how to do that in just a second. So the next thing we need to consider is our duplicate scrubbing policy. And there are a few items to consider for this. So I'm going to bring all of this stuff over here. You'll notice that we've got a duplicate scrubbing policy that equals 1. If we jump over to our PhoneBurner documentation here, you'll see the duplicate scrubbing policy, when it's set to 1, will scrub against your contacts and your team's contacts. So if you're part of a team, it's not just going to look at your contacts, but everybody on the team's contacts. And so most of the time, that's what I like to set my duplicate scrubbing policy to, is number 1, or maybe 2. But if you only want to look at your account, then you may want to consider setting that to 0. Now let's jump back over here. The next thing here is duplicate checks. What are we checking to see if it's a duplicate? You can check for a matching email or phone, and that's what I'm doing in this particular case. I'm looking for any record that has a matching email or phone to what this particular record is sending over. If I only cared about email, I could set phone to false. If I only cared about phone, I could set email to false. And then what are we going to do if we find a duplicate? So on duplicate, I'm going to update. But one of the other options is to skip that record. If that record already exists, we're not going to do anything with that record. And whether or not you update or skip is going to depend on where you think you have the best information. If the best information you believe is coming from Clay, then you'll probably always want to update. If the information that you have from Clay might be outdated based off of your team calling contacts in PhoneBurner, you might want to skip. So now the next thing we want to talk about are custom fields. So I'm going to go ahead and bring those over. You'll notice that custom fields is a large array of fields. So we have a custom fields array where we can define the name of the custom field, the type of custom field, and the value that we're going to send over to populate that custom field. So here you can see I've got company name as a custom field, and I want to send a value into that field that I've enriched using Clay. So I'm going to take the company name data from the company name column from Clay and send that to the company name field in PhoneBurner. And it's a type 1, which means it's a text field. Job title. The value I want to send over there is whatever I've captured as a job title in Clay. Location. I'm going to take the location from Clay and send that over. Company domain. Let's take that information from Clay and send it over. LinkedIn profile, again, we're just mapping the information that we've augmented or enriched in Clay and sending it to those fields in PhoneBurner. And so anyway, that's all we're going to talk about for the body right now. We'll come back to this in just a moment. But the next thing we need to talk about are the headers. When we're creating contacts in PhoneBurner, because we have to be able to authenticate in order to create records in our PhoneBurner account. I'm going to click on Add a New Key and Value Pair. And the key is going to be authorization. So I'm going to go ahead and delete key 1, and I'm going to type in authorization. And the value is going to be my authentication token, my access token. So I'm going to start by entering bearer space, and now I need to grab my access token. So jumping back over to PhoneBurner, we're going to go to Integrations. From Integrations, we're going to click on Personal Access Token. And we're going to generate a new token. Now, I've already generated a token, so I'm just going to copy that token. And I'm going to paste that after the bearer space. Make sure there's a space between bearer and your token. So now we've got our access token, and we're ready to save this. So I'm going to click on Save and Don't Run. That would be my recommendation for you, is to save and not run. That's going to create the new column. So here you can see we have our new column here, HTTP API, and it hasn't been run on any one of these specific rows. So now I can run it on this individual row right here to verify that I didn't screw anything up. And somehow I screwed something up, failed to parse body input. This means there's probably something weird with where I was merging things in. So let's go ahead and edit the column. Let's make sure we've got commas after everything, because that's interesting. It killed everything after category ID. That is weird. Let's go ahead and try this again. It did not seem to like that I didn't have a space between that colon and the double quote. So here we are. I'm going to go ahead and just run through the rest of this real quick, get it all back up to date. All right, so I went through and got everything updated again. Let's go ahead and run this one more time and see if it errors out on us or if it's successful. Oh, still got something screwy in there. Let's go in and edit the column again. All right, so we just got it successfully posted. It did not like that I had this square bracket for custom fields right here that started the array on its own line. It wanted it right here, right after the colon. So anyway, it is done. We'll go ahead and close that. That was successful. If we jump back over to PhoneBurner, we'll go to contacts. We can see, well, it didn't create a new contact because this contact already existed. It was a duplicate. It would have updated it. So now let's go make a quick little change to our post, and I'll show you how it updates. So let's go back to our clay, go to edit column. We'll go down here. So one thing that we probably want that's not here right now is an email address. So we're sending a phone number, but we might want the email address coming to PhoneBurner. So we're going to add a new line. We're going to type in email. And we're going to merge any email that we may have captured, any personal email that we may have captured for these records, and send it over to PhoneBurner. So let's go ahead and save that. Don't run it. We're going to run it just on this one row. Hopefully I did everything right and we don't get another error. And there we are, success. Let's jump back over to PhoneBurner, refresh, and you'll see we now have an email address for that contact. And so now that we've confirmed that we have this working the way we want it to work, we can now run this for all of the additional rows and feed these contacts over into the appropriate folder in PhoneBurner. So let's go ahead and do that. Now you'll see some of them, they didn't process because we are actually requiring all of these fields in order to create the record in PhoneBurner. So you may want to consider this little option here. You'll want to consider which fields are required and which ones aren't, so that all the data that you expect to show up in PhoneBurner will in fact show up in PhoneBurner. But let's go back to PhoneBurner, refresh, and here you'll see our 8 contacts are now in here. We're missing 2 because 2 were skipped because they were missing 1 or more elements that are required. So anyway, that's how you can start taking advantage of the clay enrichment tool to augment the information that you have on your contacts and feed that information directly into PhoneBurner. Thanks for taking a moment to watch this video, and happy dialing.